Thank you to Autumn and Adele for their beautiful playing today. And thank you all for attending today. My name is Matthew Ball, and I have the honour of leading today's memorial for Richard Norton. Although we are all heavy with sadness, we would like today to be about sharing fond memories, some lighter moments, celebrating the light Richard brought to all of our lives. I would like to acknowledge Richard's extended family and his soulmate Judy for supporting our gathering. I'd also like to acknowledge Bob Jones, Richard's friend of over 60 years, and his trust in us to celebrate his best mate. Richard was a dignified man, but he's also full of fun and ready to praise those around him. In that spirit, please give yourself permission to smile, laugh, shed a tear, and applaud those who share with us today. We chose this spot for its connection to Richard and Judy. Richard often spoke of their walks and how they found the oak trees in this park to be grounding and energising. It may also give you a place to return to feel close to Richard. I hope all of you have had a chance to collect an email for today. If you haven't, please collect one during one of the music interludes between speakers. Richard's passing was so sudden, so unexpected, that none of us got the chance to speak to Richard and let him know just how much he meant to us. We're using these small plaques as a way to convey those messages. Richard was not religious, but he was spiritual. He believed in energy, ki, karma, and symbolism. He always wore his Bushido cross, often to the frustration of his directors. The symbols of the ima are the lotus flower, a symbol of life and rebirth, the Japanese kanji for sensei, the symbol of Team Norton that he wore like a family crest, and the symbol for Zen Do Kai, the Australian style he co-founded in 1970. He was into symbolism, but he also hated me crapping on. I can feel him giving me the message. Enough of that bullshit, just get on with it. So, let's get on with it. Billy Monet has known Richard for 55 years. He was Richard's student, training partner, contemporary, and above all, great friend. They had a bond that was forged through shared experience and the sort of deep brotherhood that can only come for stepping up to save each other's lives. Their connection was visible. Their mutual respect was palpable. Please welcome Soke Billy and Tracy Jones.
Okay, good morning everybody. Yes, I want to thank you all on behalf of Richard and...
Sorry, just need a little closer.
A bit louder. Sorry.
You're just too tall.
I'm too tall, okay. I'd like to thank you all for coming today to share this memorial service and gathering for Richard so that we all... Matt's already said virtually everything I was going to say, which is awesome, but so we can gather what's happening, or because it's caught us all by surprise. I met Richard 55 years ago when I walked into Elizabeth Street. I was 18 years old, and he was taking the class, and he was 20 years old, and I was totally in awe of his ability and the way he moved. The things that happened in the early days that Bob and Richard did to get Zen Do Kai started was just unbelievable. You had to be being part of it. It was sort of thrown together at the same time. It was just so spectacular. All right, so we were just talking about Richard and Bob did a rock break on Richard's stomach because Richard sort of took his top off and laid across two people with his head and his heels on their backs, and Bob put a big slab of rock on his midsection and hit it with a sledgehammer quite a few times before it broke and smashed into pieces on the ground, and he stood up and bowed, and the audience went crazy. And pretty much remembering that and everything else that Richard did, when he did it into a demonstration or any martial arts, people were just totally in awe of him. All right, so we were so lucky to have him, to have him. So I think today also is, before we started, you're all walking up and shaking one another, hugging one another with the family and the brotherhood and just extended family, which is really nice to see. It's about, I guess, us trying to register what's happened, although it's just come so sudden, it's very hard to register. Thank you all for coming, and and hopefully a lot of you will come afterwards to a luncheon that we're going to have. All right, and I want you just to remember and realise how lucky we were to have had him, have anybody of his calibre in our lives. So I get very emotional, so I sort of tend to rave a bit here, and it doesn't really flow as nicely as Matt makes it flow, but thank you all so much for coming. All right? Thank you.
One thing. Hi there. I wasn't really actually going to talk. I was only there for the first 5 years of Zen Do Kai in the last 5 years. I'm really grateful that Richard come back into my life again, or BJO brought him back into my life again. But look, one of the things I really remember strongly when we were young, Richard was very spiritual, and he started dabbling with the out-of-body experiences when we were training and meditating from a really young age, and he was incredibly masterful at it. He was doing out-of-body experiences and mastering them while we were just floundering in them and trying our hardest. So I really feel that he carried on with that throughout his life. And the biggest message he gave me in the end was, if it's not adding to our lives, let it go. It's a stage of our lives to be enjoying ourselves. And he was a fine leader in that. He's going to be sorely missed, as all of you know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracy and Billy. Richard has been recognised for his skill, leadership and mastery in martial arts. He holds 5th degree in Gōjū-ryū karate under Hanshi Tino Sobrano, 6th degree in BJJ Machado, 8th degree in Chun Kuk Do with Chuck Norris, 10th degree in Zen Do Kai, the system he co-founded with Bob Jones 55 years ago, and 6th degree in 6th degree in the BJJ system he founded, Team Norton. But we know his mastery is deeper than that. He did not look for rank, he looked for knowledge. He was always the student. Richard always sought out the best and then absorbed everything he could. During the decades located in the States, Richard was able to immerse himself in training and often joked that the movies were just a vehicle so he could train more. He was in the mecca for the greatest martial artists of our time, all finding their way to the USA. I recently held pets for Richard. It was like training a champion pro fighter. He knew his body and the language of combat so intimately, the fine adjustments were made instantly, without ego and willing to try whatever was asked. Richard has always stayed current, from boxing with people like Ray Giles, to BJJ, karate, street combat, to picking up skills from current champions like BJJ's Lockie Giles and Tum winner Muay Thai. He also spent time refining old skills, rekindling his Gōjū training with Max Fabris to study kata and bunkai. He took part in various seminars in many different styles. He always dared to participate. This was not just his journey. He always shared his lessons of discovery with us, what would work and how it would help to improve us, his students. Graham Slater is well known in the martial arts industry. He has worked for decades to lift the profile of Australian martial arts and to bring us all together. He has created TV shows, magazines, and improved the professionalism and viability of clubs throughout Australia. Graham has worked with Richard over many years, and in 2023 he presented Sokai Richard with a Lifetime Achievement Master Award. Please welcome Graham.
Thank you, Matt. My relationship with Richard wasn't forged by blood, sweat and tears on the mats. And I'm pretty jealous of a lot of you that had that opportunity. I had a different relationship, a great friendship, as I felt. In the TV side of things, he was very helpful, and we worked together on a number of projects. Some of the things I just thought, he was just such a perfectionist, his integrity to deliver everything, to work hard, and his total commitment. We created this program, a TV program, a competition, where we would train people to become action stars. And I got Richard to be part of that. And we were talking and said, oh, look, can you can you do it for us? Can we work together? He goes, yeah, we'll do that. Because he always said yes to every project. He said, I've got something else that may clash in LA, but we'll work it out. So we did a number of different roles where we taught the people, and Richard was doing the fight choreography for people and doing judging. And then we had the final, in Sydney, we had the final live performance stage. And we're about 2 weeks out, everything's set, ready to go. He said, I've got to go back to LA. I go, what? I don't know whether I can get back or not. So look, I understand you can't go over there and come back again. We knew that, we'll find somebody else. We had Peter Morrissey, the fashion guru, as one judge for this occasion, and we thinking about who else could we get to replace Richard. We had nobody. And he says, don't worry, I'll work it out. He flew back for 1 day from LA to Sydney. He didn't just come there, he went straight from the airport, went straight to the venue and started mentoring and coaching the competitors, because they had to do this live performance that he helped coordinate, and it's got to go all together. And he did that. I had to tell him to go back to the hotel. You've got 3 hours, and then we're on at 6 o'clock. So he went most of the day helping other people. So after that, at 6 o'clock he was there, and we did the performance, and in the morning having breakfast, he said, I'm just flying out. So we took him there. So it's just fly in, fly out. He kept his commitment. Just so proud of the man to say, yeah, we can rely on you. And we talked about quite a few things over the years about working with Sammo Hung and his commitment to taking a punch under the jaw. Everybody's seen that movie. 50 times under the jaw, bang. That's commitment. Don't know how you do that. The last movie he made with Cynthia, Black Creek, he tore his hamstring, tore his calf muscle. And we talked about how you're going to do that. I said, I don't know whether I can do that. I said, well, you know you can do it. And he ended up going there. He modified the training, the choreography, and he made it happen. And that's I watched his role, and I wasn't pissing in his pocket. I said, mate, you made that movie. That was a great performance. If you haven't seen it, it's not out just yet, but if you get to see it, you watch that performance. In his performance, there's things that he felt didn't portray him the best way. He was a baddie. He was a really sadistic bastard, really, you know. But he didn't want to play it too much that way. So he said, look, he said to the producers, look, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to do that. I just want to do it this way. And whatever he did, he just nailed it. Just in closing, I get some comfort from knowing that Richard was a really evolved human being. And those people have an opportunity to leave when they want to and be in the arms of somebody that they love, like Judy for 38 years, his soulmate, and get to choose that timing to not suffer and just vacate and move on and leave us all in a feeling that he's left us at the right timing to motivate us, to inspire us, to continue on. So the timing is perfect for him. We might not think so. We want him to be around for a lot longer. We truly miss him. I truly miss him. Thank you.
We're very honoured that Judy's here with us and would like to say a few words.
Hello everyone, thank you all for coming. I'm probably not as happy as I'm looking, but as I said, thank you for coming. Everyone's depiction of Richard is absolutely spot on, and some things sound weird. Richard and I were totally into symbology. We met when I was 28. This incident happened on the 28th, and there's so many other connecting things to come together between Tracy and Graham. You know, Richard and Judy's story is actually a story of destiny. And there was absolute love and understanding. When something like this happens, everything you believe is really tested. So one of the things I will say actually, that Richard loved being involved with Zen Do Kai again, and he loved the training. And he would, you know, it was a bit boring for me sometimes. He'd always be looking on YouTube. He'd always want to improve himself. You know, he'd have people calling him. But he loved it. I said to him, you know, you could do seminars or teach with your eyes blindfolded, but he never wanted that. He wanted the drive. It was always the people he met, whether it be the film work or training. It was always about the people. So, you know, that was something about Richard. So when this happened, like, he had such a strong mind that he could live to 200 if his whole life was depending on his mind. But I really do believe his passing was his destiny and our destiny together, and he did rise and fall by his own sword. He never really... He was a very tricky guy, because it's like, if you didn't want him to do something, you'd have to say, I want you to do it, because he was so always like, had this thing. He didn't like being told what to do, and over many years, you know, I sort of gave up on that. And, you know, I knew he was probably doing things sometimes not in his best interest, but I didn't want to be that sort of wife that would, like, he had to find out for himself, basically. So when this happened, you know, I think he was such at a proud time in his life. He loved what he was doing and the people around him. And he went out, we joke, this sounds so hokey, but he went out looking good, like his body looked good. You know, he went to the day this happened, he'd been to the beach. You know, I was doing some training. He had a seminar on Saturday and he had Comic-Con on Sunday. And, you know, usually, because I didn't like Jiu-Jitsu, he'd be really frustrated and, you know, he'd say, oh, you know. But this particular day, it was like he sensed something and he said, you know, would you mind, you know, putting on the gi and we'll just go through some things. And, you know, we kind of did that. So that was lovely. And there were such lovely moments. And then he just, like, this, as I said, this sounds so hokey, but in his passing, you know, his hair looked good, he was tanned. I mean, he looked amazing. And I was sort of saying to him as he was on his way out, you know, you look really good. You know, it sounds so hokey, I know. But so on that note, as much as, of course, we're all going to have our sad, hard moments, and especially me, of course, because I've had longer for this to sink in now. Now that you're all seeing me and hearing me speak, it's become real. So, but I'm sure he's here, and I'm sure he'd be very proud of this day and everyone coming. And he was an incredible man. And, you know, if you had 10 of him in a neighbourhood, imagine how life would be. And, you know, he seemed to be able to have his love for me, but I also know it was my support, not minding him extending his heart out as well, that he was able to do that as well. So I think we were an absolute great team. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you very much.
I know there are many grown men here who at some time had a poster of Richard on their wall, probably a topless poster. Richard was on countless magazine covers, magazine spreads and centerfolds. I cannot think of any Australian martial artist that reached this level of exposure. It was editors and publishers like Jeremy Takoti that recognised his brilliance and shared it with the masses. Jeremy Takoti first trained with Richard in the 1990s. He went on to become an editor at Blitz magazine in Australia, and through his work at Blitz, they quickly formed a friendship based on educating people on the benefits of martial arts. They worked on many projects together, including developing Team Norton BJJ, the Reflex Boxing Blueprint, Tactical MMA, Combatives, and Richard's tribute to Tadashi Yamashita's black belt complexes. Jeremy knows just how prolific and exacting Richard was off the mat. Please welcome Jeremy Takoti.
I can hear Richard's voice in my head saying, "Come on, mate, don't be shit." I wrote a few thoughts just shortly after his passing and posted them on Facebook, and many of those words captured some of the extraordinary experience of having Richard in my life. The presenters before have done such an amazing job of speaking to his life. Thank you. So I'm shit already. Damn it. And just like to echo those statements of just how lucky we have been to have him in many different roles, as a mentor, as a teacher, as a father figure, as a friend. So I wrote a piece that started with his iconic line, "painful." And in the world of martial arts, some names become legend, not just for their skill, but for their presence, their impact, and the way they shape the lives of those around them. Richard Norton was one of those legends. He was a warrior on and off the screen. He carried an effortless blend of power, precision, and charisma. He wasn't just a master of his art, he was a mentor, a friend, and a man who left an indelible mark on all who had the privilege to know him. There's a moment in the movie Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars, an intense battle scene with the legendary martial arts star Sammo Hung, that skyrocketed Richard's career in the Hong Kong action film industry. In the early explosive exchanges of that scene, Richard delivers a blistering spinning back kick, sending Sammo flying into a wall. As Sammo grimaces, Richard stands over him, eyes full of that familiar mix of mischief and dominance, and delivers a single word: painful. That line became iconic, and he repeated that line throughout several different roles, and it kind of became an interesting take on his personality, in that it captured a lot of his mischief and his passion for things being effective. It was a perfect encapsulation of Richard's screen persona. He was always powerful, confident, and laced with just the right amount of humour. And really those that know him well know how constantly funny he was. He wouldn't miss an opportunity to make a joke at pretty much anybody's expense. And probably the only person that I ever saw be able to go toe-to-toe with him was Judy. But as we face the reality of his passing, that same word, painful, echoes in a different way. Painful. How about now? Yes, Richard. More than words can say. The world feels different without him. He was a man who seemed immortal, invincible, whose strikes were like lightning and whose laughter was just as powerful. And those of us that had the honour of knowing him, we're very lucky to carry his lessons in our hearts. He taught not just with his extraordinary ability, but with his actions. And he led with such presence and mastery. And he inspired with his unwavering dedication to his art and to the people in his life that he called friends. His humour, his wisdom, and his ability to push himself and others to their best, to do their best, will never be forgotten. I had the privilege of training and learning from Richard firsthand for many years, witnessing his brilliance up close. He was as fierce as he was kind, as disciplined as he was generous. Richard had the ability to blend just incredible dedication with raw skill, humility, and a lot of humour that just made him not just a great martial artist, a teacher, and a fight choreographer, but an incredible human being. And if you knew Richard well, as I'm sure all of us here today do, you know, Richard was just, I have to iterate, relentlessly funny. It's something that I saw quite often pass on to Clint, who he would rib endlessly at every opportunity. And I'm sure that'll be missed dearly. But Richard could also play the bad guy. He could flick a switch and go from comedian to stone cold killer. And he really did have the skills to back it up, both on and off the screen. I first met Richard in the mid to late 90s at John Will's Shoot Fighting Academy in Geelong. As a fresh black belt in John's innovative no-holds-barred shoot fighting system, Richard pulled me out of the class to help him demonstrate various concepts of self-defense, awareness, posture, distance control, stretch reflex, startle flinch response. And by help, I mean volunteer to get slapped in the face. If you've ever been famously slapped by Richard, you'll know the drill. He asked me to shape up about arm's length away and quite casually told me that he was going to hit me. He said, if you see me move, block me. Try and stop me. You can even try and hit me first. Are you ready? Now this was nearly 30 years ago. I was in my early 20s and fast. Not extraordinarily quick, but probably faster than 90% of the population. At that point, I'd already been training for most of my life, had a few black belts, worked security and taught and trained for a living. I'd made martial arts my life. But Richard was simply on another level, another planet, and quite possibly at that time he was in his prime. And to say that his speed and power were incomparable is no understatement. He was almost superhumanly fast, to the degree that his strikes were virtually invisible. Now, I'd grown up watching his movies. I loved ninjas, and I loved his role as Kyo the Enforcer in the Octagon. I loved Jim Carter, Millionaire Express, Sword of Bushido, to name a few. And here I was at that time standing face to face with my childhood hero, a living legend. And I was aware of his profound reputation and role in establishing Zen Do Kai. And even with my hands up at the ready and his hands casually down by his side, I couldn't stop him. The impact was felt in my face rather than seen, literally like lightning. A blur of motion and a loud, resounding crack with an electrified shock that stung my face. He'd slapped me, and it was controlled, precise, and painful. And so I felt firsthand the type of speed and power from Richard that wouldn't just bruise, but if he'd chosen to, would crush a windpipe or shatter bones. It was just extraordinary. At the time, I could hear the gasps and reactions of shock in the room just as I felt the slap in my face. And he didn't do this just once, but several times in a row before spinning me around, unceremoniously demonstrating an explosive knee to the back of my head and dumping me flat on my back on the mats. The room was stunned. I was in shock. But despite the pain, I loved it. I looked over at John Will, who was smiling from ear to ear. Not just at me, I think, but with me and the rest of the class. Although I think there was quite a few people happy that I was getting slapped around. And he gave me this look as if to say, see, this is Richard, the Lionheart. Now you see. Now you understand. Richard made sure I was okay and continued to deliver an incredible session, weaving his experience, his insight, humour and wisdom in a way that kept the room captivated. Richard really had a presence, a spark that he somehow transferred to everyone around him. You see, Richard had a way with people far beyond his reputation. He was always right there with you in that moment. Without question, he lifted everyone around him just by being in the room. Though no longer with us, Richard's impact has created such monumental ripples and waves of positivity throughout time. Richard and I reconnected through Silvio Morelli when I was editor of Blitz magazine, and Richard and I quickly formed a friendship that I will cherish forever. I also got to see how powerful an influence he had had over Silvio, not just in the martial arts, but in terms of Silvio's focus, drive, loyalty, discipline, and a will to create whatever he'd put his word or his mind to. Silvio had trained with Richard for many years, and the two always held each other in very high regard. Richard and I started training together, which was quite extraordinary to me at the time. It just didn't feel real. And although he became my teacher, he was just unbelievably open to exploring new ideas. And, we would often experiment, trying lots of different things. He'd constantly be bringing fights, and we'd be watching them and looking to analyze them. And over the years, I can hear him saying, "Hurry up, mate, you're rambling on." Over the years, we worked together on many projects, including his famous black belt complexes, a tribute to one of his teachers that he'd met on set, Tadashi Mashita. We built a pad holding curriculum, blending his expertise in choreography and training celebrities, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu curriculum for the Team Norton Association, and we spent years developing a combative system in tactical MMA, a full white belt to black belt curriculum, blending modern MMA with street self-defense, all underpinned by his incredible love of philosophy and personal development. It was a project forged over thousands of hours of training, iteration, hundreds of hours of filming, seminars and workshops. And tragically, much of that footage was lost in a hard drive crash. Painful? Painful indeed. But this is something that Richard was familiar with, and he just took it in stride. So for example, many times he would work for months on fight scenes, designing choreography, pre-visualization, planning every camera angle, only for the movie to be shelved, to be bought out, or to be rescheduled. And this was something that he just took in his stride. He, obviously expressed frustration at times that projects that he was really looking forward to doing not coming to fruition. But he realized that it was all part of Hollywood and part of the business, and that he just had to be ready at a moment's notice, and still fully accept that some projects wouldn't see the light of day. And yet he never lost his passion. Recently I managed to recover some of those files, and only what seems like a few weeks ago, Richard and I had discussed bringing some of those projects to light, along with some books we'd written. Richard was fully committed to his schedule of workshops and seminars with the Zen Do Kai family. And because he said yes so often, he really had so many other projects on the go. We'd also discussed another project called Success Sensei, which was blending some of the insights of warrior traditions and spiritual insight and life coaching. But we were delayed, and I made the mistake of thinking that we had more time. Painful. Yes, painful beyond words. Richard was prolific, always quick to collaborate, but always had such a high standard for everything that he did. He was without question a Renaissance man with wide interest and still deep mastery in a number of fields. He could perform in front of a camera, especially when it counted, regardless of how he felt or the obstacles he was facing. He could design fight scenes and entire curriculums. He understood storytelling, cinematography, everything from sound, lenses, lighting, rigging, the full craft of stunt work, from firearms and stunt driving to horse riding. He had a love of philosophy, travel, and an appreciation of art and music, and a burning curiosity about life, and of course his deep love for Judy, which in many ways served as a powerful example for my own relationships, and I know it deeply impacted many of the people that had an opportunity to witness their love for each other. Richard played many roles, not just in the movies, but in life. He was a mentor, a teacher, a friend. He was a father figure and a brother. Some of those roles were perhaps projected onto him, but he wore them all well, and he was an incredible example to live up to. Richard was also fascinated by synchronicity, by energy, by the interconnectedness of all living things. He was very curious about fate and destiny, about the laws that might operate behind reality. But he also, besides being deeply spiritual, he believed in preparation, in hard work, and in dedication to your art. We would often discuss ideas of his love of Zen, Japanese culture, and Buckminster Fuller's philosophy of life supports that which supports life. Richard was also, I'm going to wrap this up because I can hear him like he's going to slap me. Richard was an incredible listener, a confidant. He was an advisor, a keeper of many personal truths. He was incredibly loyal, and he'll be dearly missed. It always felt like he had a million different things on the go, and this was a common theme in Richard's life and mine too. And he'll be deeply missed. Yet in this sorrow, I feel an even greater appreciation for our friendship and for the impact that he's had on so many people that I know. And it only grows now in magnitude that he's gone. His passing is a stark reminder of life's impermanence, and in a way that everything that we love will one day come to an end. Since his passing, I've received hundreds of messages and dozens of phone calls, and I just wanted to say a special thanks to Dr. Peter Lewis, Hunchy George Adams, Clint Harris, Brent Everton, Farabor Zazak, Ivan Rakitic, David Weston, Tom Andrews, Daniel Shaw, Con Lazos, to name a few. There's so many others I could mention. Special mention goes out to Mark Shlashko, who was expecting Richard for a seminar on the weekend that he passed. Our love, of course, goes to Richard's wife Judy and their extended families. Richard's passing has caught us all off guard, but I choose to live by the wisdom that he embodied, or at least to do my best. It wasn't so much about focusing on the pain, but by living by high standards, living with integrity, playing all out. His famous words, "Dare to participate," are a call to rise, to never settle for mediocrity, to give our all just as he did. So now we stand here as his students, his friends, his admirers, his family, grappling with this loss, and what I would give to hear his voice again. Hello, mate. Painful? Yes. But in that pain we find gratitude. Gratitude for the moments, the lessons, the laughter, and the legacy that he leaves behind. Richard Norton was never just about the fight. He was about the art, the people, the journey, and the pure essence, the spirit of martial arts itself. His life is a powerful reminder. We are stronger together. Rest well, my mentor, my master, my friend. You may be gone, but you will live in our hearts forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy, for your words. Everyone else has to cut their time down by half, please. Richard was a sensei through and through. He was the best kind of mentor. He didn't talk in riddles, create philosophical puzzles. He led a life that just made you want to be better. I remember laughing with Richard about people in their 20s saying to me, "Oh, mate, I hope I look that good when I'm his age." And I'd look at him and think, "Come on, man, you don't look that good now." You know? Richard would be way more polite. He'd say, "This doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of work." And he wasn't joking. He'd start the day every day with a 2-minute cold shower. Now, I could understand that in LA, but in Melbourne, come on. Crazy. His weight workouts were epic. A martial arts training session under 2 hours was very rare. Richard probably spent more time on his hair than most of us spend on our flexibility. Sitting at lunch with Billy and Richard and the Chief, I was teasing them about how lunch was cheaper now, as I only had to buy seniors meals. The Chief and Billy hit straight back, telling me that they refused to get seniors cards. Richard just smiled and said, "I use mine every chance I get." I love it when they say, "No, you don't look like a senior." Richard did the extraordinary, so we wouldn't settle for mediocrity. His reach was far and wide. He didn't need to be in our physical presence to have an impact. John Leondaris is a representative of BJMA and WK in South Australia, a lifelong student of Zen Do Kai and BJMA Muay Thai. He has helped create a strong brotherhood of clubs. Over the past 5 decades, he has worked with Australian martial artists from across the state to develop a vibrant sports combat community. Please welcome John Leondaris.
Good morning. Thank you for the kind introduction, Matthew, and I wish to express my gratitude to Matt and Judy for allowing us to speak on the behalf of South Australian martial artists. To honour Richard Norton, firstly I extend my deepest condolences to Judy, Richard's family and friends. Losing a loved one, whether a brother, sister or best mate, is profoundly difficult. While we may never heal the loss, over time we come to accept the emptiness that's left behind. In stating this, I share my heartfelt sympathies with all of us affected by Richard's passing. And I must say, standing here, I find it somewhat ironical in the essence of one of the last times I spoke to Soki Richard. I believe he was walking in the park here, and he was totally blown out on the speed of the Formula One Grand Prix cars. I can remember saying, wow, these cars go fast. But Soki Richard's connection to South Australia, to my knowledge, dates back to 1972, when he visited to lead training sessions in the newly established Adelaide Hombu. This was in Highley Street, which is the central strip, well, particularly was back in those days, so involved in lots of action, I imagine, and doing security in places known as Countdown and other clubs that he would have been working at, and visiting South Australia many times with the big bands in the 1970s. He later visited South Australia with kickboxing champion Benny Akides, and he attended many camps and seminars in South Australia, creating memorable moments, and continued to mentor us until just before his transition to the spiritual realm. As we have heard, Soki Richard was a remarkable individual whose legacy will forever resonate in our hearts and minds. His contributions to Zen Do Kai have inspired countless individuals to pursue excellence, discipline and self-discovery. Soki's dedication to martial arts was not just about the physical prowess, but also instilling values of integrity, maintaining a standard of excellence and perseverance. As a sensei teacher, Richard was unparalleled. He had the unique ability to connect with students, nurturing their potential and guiding them to achieve their best. His passion for teaching was evident in every lesson, and his influence extended far beyond the dojo. I also acknowledge his contributions to the martial arts film industry, bringing his charisma and skill to the screen. His performances was a testament to his versatility and his dedication to the craft. Soki Richard's impact on the martial arts community and the world of entertainment is truly immeasurable. He leaves behind a legacy of excellence, passion and inspiration. We are grateful for the time we shared with him and for the indelible mark he left on our lives. As we remember Soki Richard today, let us carry forward his spirit of dedication and his unwavering commitment to excellence. May his memories continue to inspire us to pursue our passions with the same intensity and integrity, and that he always embodied. Thank you, Judy, for supporting Richard and sharing his skills and wisdom with us. Soki Richard, you'll be deeply missed, but never forgotten. May our memories of Soki Richard remain eternal. Thank you.
Richard had so many elements to his life. It is easy for us to think of him in the moments we shared with him. Richard was honest, open and genuine, but he was a different person to each of us, not because he changed, but because we are all different. I like to think we were close. I normally called him Soke or Richard. A few times I called him mate, to which he would respond, "That's a bit presumptive." His role as personal security to some of the biggest acts in the world gave him a window into a life most of us will never experience. When we talked about those times, he would almost always focus on the genius their emotional connection to an audience, and their commitment to their craft. I was after a juicy story, and what I would receive would be a lesson in taking the best of what a person can give. Richard was not a person to shy away from the hard moments in life. If he could give a person a moment of joy or distract them from their pain, he would. When contacted by a fan or fan's family to help celebrate an occasion or to send a message of hope, he would stop and take the time to send a heartfelt clip. I have seen him give generously to friends and their families when they are in need of help, quietly, without fuss or recognition. Together we have sat by the beds of friends recovering from surgery, friends who have had serious accidents, and I've been with him when he has given comfort to families and people in the last days of their life. Richard was caring. It wasn't always evident on the mats, as he slapped, pulled, wrenched and strangled his way through a session. Many of us have had the pleasure of Richard's caring hands. I will miss seeing Clint Harris being tortured with affection. Richard wasn't sexist though. He would hit anyone. In fact, during COVID, he often had to demonstrate on Judy at home, which was pretty rough. I'd like to introduce Lyndall Ricketts. Lyndall is a true karateka. She's the sort of partner you want to train with, but rarely get to. Intelligent, caring, strong, and very bloody good. It's no wonder Richard saw something special in her. Please welcome Lyndall.
I'm honoured to have been asked by Matt to speak today on how personally Socko Richard has impacted my life. Sorry. I started my journey as a martial artist under Shihan Silvio and Shihan Vincent as a young girl in Zen Do Kai karate, a direct lineage to Richard, with Silvio being one of Richard's black belts. I reflect back to the time when I first connected with Richard. I'd been a Shodan Ho for 5 years under Zen Do Kai. I was 21 years old, running a part-time dojo, teaching predominantly children and some parents, actively training BJJ and Muay Thai. But for a number of reasons, at the time I was lacking any mentorship or guidance when it came to my karate development. I had met Richard and trained with Richard a few times over the years, but had never really connected with him on a personal level. In, I think, 2006, I heard that Richard was running a seminar in Albert Park with Sam Greco. I asked one of my adult students, George, to come to participate with me at the seminar. My intention for the attendance was to showcase my skills, aka show off, hopefully connect with Richard and ask him if he would be available to do some training with me. He didn't know me from a bar of soap. I was a nobody. I had nothing to offer him, but he was someone who I considered the pinnacle of our style and someone who I wanted to train under. The seminar went well, and I must have done something right, because after the session ended, Richard approached me and asked who I trained under. I was transparent despite my nerves of what my intentions were. He said he was more than happy to spend time with me and gave me his business card. This moment in time sparked a nearly 20-year student-teacher relationship and friendship. Thinking back now as a middle-aged woman, it made me laugh when I was writing this. It all seems a little arrogant of me to think that someone of Richard's calibre would make the time for someone like myself. But this speaks volumes about who Richard really was. He was a man and an instructor who matched a person's energy. If someone was passionate about learning, he offered himself wholeheartedly and willing. Over the years, my dojo grew, and Richard supported me in the development of not just myself, but of my advanced students. He attended advanced gradings and held many seminars. If I asked, he was there, and sometimes I didn't even need to ask, and he was there. In 2018, I was honoured to have been graded to my 5th degree black belt by Richard, with my family and my advanced students as witnesses. Every time I tie my belt, I remind myself of the type of student and instructor I have committed to myself to be, based on the standards that Richard has instilled in me. As everyone here knows, Richard's talents are not limited to the striking arts. Richard stepped in to run our BJJ classes when our head coach had to travel back to Brazil. At the time, our program was quite young, and a large majority of students didn't know who Richard was and thought I just got a karate guy to step in. Their mistake was very quickly realised. I've actually had a number of past BJJ students reach out once they heard of Richard's passing, thanking me for the opportunity to have trained under him for that period of time. This is just a small example of the impact he has had on those he met. It is evident by all the messages and stories over the past week shared on social media of how widespread the impact he has made. Over the years, I obviously look forward to the training, but look forward just as much, if not more, to the conversations we had. We spoke about philosophy, religion, politics and our industry, all the good stuff. I never felt that Richard ever pushed any beliefs in these conversations. He always made space for a difference of opinion. He would so openly speak of his love for Judy. Their relationship was one similar to my parents, an old school love where the young love's passion. Richard was fiercely loyal to his connection to Hanshi Tino and Gōjū-ryū Kai, and regularly spoke of about all that Hanshi has done for karate in Australia. He was proud of his lineage and expressed his disappointment if someone forgot the roots of where they came from. On a personal level, as life does to all of us, it throws us some curveballs. During these times, Richard was a source of support, comfort, and wisdom to me. It has been my experience in life that sometimes when we hold people in high regard, we can be disappointed to find that the exterior doesn't match truly who that person is. As karateka, we are encouraged to live by the virtues of Bushido, something a lot of people claim to do but fall short. No person is without faults, mistakes are made along the way. However, from all I have witnessed personally, Richard encompassed all virtues to the highest standards. Richard had a strong moral compass. He was kind-hearted, courageous, respectful, honest, loyal, and lived with honour. As I continue my martial arts journey and my journey through life, I strive to conduct myself in a way that Richard would be proud. For me personally, I believe time is the most valuable thing you can give to another person. I'm so grateful for all the time that Richard has given me, both as a student and as a friend. Richard's presence in my life has made me a better martial artist, a better instructor, and a better woman, and I will forever be in debt to him. I will miss his guidance, his inspiration, his sense of humour, and his wisdom. On an ending note, I know that this story I've told today is not a unique one. I'm only one of many who have been on the receiving end of Richard's giving nature, and I feel the loss for all of us who have had the privilege of knowing him. Us. Thank you.
Thanks, Lyndall. Richard's work in the movie industry is legendary. He worked with the greats and became one of them. In his career, he acted in almost 80 movies, including fight choreography and other behind-the-scene roles. He was involved in excess of 100 movies. He also had a number of prominent roles in TV series. At the age of 75, hard to believe, 75. At the age of 75, he was still in demand for roles behind and in front of the camera. Damien Chiramutu has worked firsthand with Richard in the film industry. Damien and Richard developed a deep respect for each other through years of training, teaching and creating together. They have worked side by side in corporate workshops, film sets and powerful public seminars. Damien owns Empower Tactical in Melbourne. Please welcome Damien.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everyone, for coming. It's an honour to be here to speak for Richard. And is it better? Yeah. Okay. I wasn't ready to speak, Matt, so I'm just going to cut it short. My experience with Richard, he was such a great man. I think most of you were speaking before sum it up of what Richard was like as a person. He was such a genuine human being. He was great to be around. And he was always giving shit to everyone who will be by his side, you know. I can listen to his voice right now saying, come on man, hurry up, you know, the shit that you get us into. The last few works that we've done together with Richard was, we've done a lot of corporate workshops, we've done a lot of school programs, and as some of you who were speaking before me was saying that Richard will always have enjoyment of demonstrating a technique and going full force, obviously without hurting anyone. But when I was going to these corporates and school workshops that I teach quite often at all the schools in Melbourne, my heart was pounding because before going there, I said to Richard, we can't do this there because we're not allowed to make contact with the kids. And he said, no worries, mate. And as soon as we got there, the first thing that he would do, he would just go full force. I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to lose everything. But, you know, and then we'll be doing a lot of corporate workshops together, such as Football Victoria. And he would say to me in the car, you know, mate, I like the specific. Going there and to do mindset coaching, it's great, but we'll see how we go. And we had 3 people together to perform and to coach on the day. And Richard was like, you start the introduction and, you know, we'll do it together. 45 minutes later, everyone's still waiting for their turn to start coaching. So it sounds like Richard, doesn't it? I guess I'm sure he will be honored and proud to have you all here today to commemorate his life, and thank you also, Judy, to be here. And I think Richard had so much to offer, and he will always say to me, mate, you got to slow down. And in the same sentence, he will tell me all the stuff he's got going on. You know, he will say he's got to go to Germany, he's got to go to Hollywood, he's got to go to Smackville, he's got to go everywhere. So I guess I would I would see myself in Richard. He's always preaching everyone to do things a certain way, and he will do the opposite. You know. I guess, guys, we're all gonna miss Richard. I think the only way we can honor him is to honor his legacy and his love, and also the light that he will bring to a dark room everywhere he will go. So, guys, again, thank you so much for having me here today.
Thanks, Damien. Damien, that was really beautiful. Richard didn't actively seek students. You just wanted to be his student. I never knew him to be political, other than US politics, but not martial arts politics. I never knew him to be political or speak poorly of a person's instructor, even if he may have had a personal view. This made him an incredible sounding board. I know many people that have called him at moments of personal crisis or loss of faith in their training. He would hear you out, walk you through your thinking, and without giving you direct advice, he left you knowing what path you would take. Kyle Reba is a big part of BJMA in Queensland. Over the past decade, Kyle has coordinated many of the BJMA events held in Queensland. This allowed him to build a working relationship with Richard that bloomed into a friendship. Richard has always been a figure in Kyle's life, starting as an action hero on the screen to a person talked about at his country dojo to becoming a mentor and friend. Please welcome Kyle.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to say firstly that I'm honoured to be here and honoured to have this opportunity to be around so many people of such prominence in my life and in martial arts. I really do feel like the baby of the group here, but yeah, I stand before you, I guess, as a father, a martial artist, a husband, and a self-professed total fanboy of Richard Norton since about the age of 15 years old. And in the couple of days following Richard's passing, I wrote a little thing, and I thought I'd share it with you. Hopefully I don't need them. There are those sorts of things that you thought you would never ever write. I guess this is one of them. What I will miss your ability and insight. I will miss your wit and your humour. I will miss how you treated me as your equal and wanted to genuinely hear my thoughts on so many things. I will miss how even though you could knock me into next week if you wanted to, we could give each other some shit, have a good laugh, and even though I had pictures of you on my wall as a teenager without your shirt on, we both didn't think that was weird at all. I will miss how much you trusted me to be your uke when we trained together, and because of that, I got to really feel how much knowledge you had. I will miss those random calls you would make just to check and see how I was going, especially during lockdown, when I am sure you had plenty of shit of your own going on. I will miss your voicemails, and I will also miss when I didn't answer those calls, being demoted each time I didn't answer. I think by the end of lockdown I'd worked my way back to Greenbelt. And mostly, I will miss not getting any more time with you, because the time I had, I talk about to so many, all the time, even this week, and tell everyone how amazing you are. I will keep doing that and will never stop. What I will cherish the times you called, or I called, and nearly every time when I would look at the screen, in the phone or in my car, I would pinch myself, because I am talking on the phone to Richard freaking Norton. I will cherish all those times I got a chance to feed off your wisdom and used it to remind me that the learning is never over. I will cherish the times you fed off my wisdom, if that was even such a thing. You asked my opinion, listened to my point of view, and I could see you valued it. I will cherish hearing you always remind me to never accept mediocrity. You are one of the ones that has always inspired me to always keep pressing on and to keep on fighting. I will cherish that you always told us to empty our cup and drink someone else's tea. Again, something that more than ever I will try to live by. I will cherish all those times you gave up your time for me, wanting nothing back in return, because that was just who you are and you wanted to pass it down. The coffees, the time at your house, the time at camps, interviews, and everything in between. And what I will cherish the most, I will cherish the fact that a wide-eyed teenage kid who watched you battling Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung on my TV in my living room, and yet had more than one poster of you without your shirt on the wall, got to connect with you on a level that as that teenage kid, never in my wildest dreams I thought was remotely possible. To me, you are a mentor, a peer, an instructor, a leader, a benchmark, a confidant, and a phenomenon. But more than anything else, to me, you were my friend. I will miss you, Richard, as so many others. But as so many others, we were able to tell so many stories about you because of the person you are. Goodbye, my friend. Love from your favourite green belt, who will now never again accept mediocrity.
We're coming to the end of our day here today. Richard was not one to rest on what he had achieved. He'd prepare for each class like it was the most important class he was ever going to teach. He would go through his old notebooks, write pages of new notes just to see what drills he could teach us in the next session, all just to get improvement in us that he was looking for. He would often film clips of his seminars to review for improvement. He would film and review other people's seminars so he could practice what he had learnt. He would even call on his way home and review the session that you just had with him. Recently in WA, Billy, Richard and I were taking a 3-part seminar. Richard was filming some of the techniques and drills I was teaching. I remember at the time feeling quite chuffed. That was until we were on the plane home and he showed me the amazing shots he had managed to take of me looking absolutely ridiculous. Richard believed in doing everything to the best of your ability. Over the past decade, he has influenced BJMA to develop deeper understanding, to give purpose, direction and support, to strive for more and never settle for mediocrity. In the past month, he filmed and introduced new skills for Zen Do Kai that will allow us to continue on his path and hopefully add to it. Richard lived such a big life. He was so charismatic, so skilled, so determined, and worked so hard. There is no one person that can carry on his legacy or his teachings. But if each of us here is able to take part of the lessons he gave us, hone them, and share them, then together, and it will take all of us, we might get close to having enough skill and enough humanity to do him justice and carry his torch forward. In the last days of life, Richard was doing what he loved. He trained and he taught each day. He ate coffee with mates, a meal with his brother, and shared his time with a wife who adored him. Many years ago, the chief said to me, "Is today a good day to die? Can you look over your shoulder at the blackbird and say, today is a good day to die? Is your life in order? Have you lived a full life? Have you given more than you have taken?" I wish the day had never come. We all wish the day had never come. But in my heart, I know Richard could look the blackbird in the eye. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. We're going to play a couple of musical pieces. The girls are going to play again for us, and then a few songs from Richard's period. While those songs are playing, we ask if you would like to come forward, and for those who are involved in the martial arts, if you would like to bow to Sensei and place your EMA board on the table. And then, as I mentioned before, we'll hang those for a month, and then we'll have a ceremony with them on the 8th of June. Thank you all for your time today. Thank you for sharing your love.